Hey guys, so welcome back, and in this video today we're going to discuss a topic that is taboo. It's taboo because nobody wants to talk about it. It's like the 800-pound gorilla in the room no one wants to talk about, which is selling. Selling versus compounding, compounding versus not selling at all, and holding your tokens. What does this all look like? Here's the thing to say right out front. There's no intentions to manipulate anything. There's no intentions to make you do anything. I can't make you guys do anything. I can't make you compound versus sell. I can't force you to do something. What I want to do is provide a different perspective, a different way of looking at things, a different way of looking at the buying and selling process, because we look at buying and selling as very linear. It's very two-dimensional, when in reality, it's very three-dimensional. It's not offer on black or white. There's shades of color to it. And I want to show you the shape of that 3D process, not a flat 2D process, the buying and selling. Because I'll be straight with everybody. I don't want you to sell, right? And I have no problem in saying this, but we want to protect the money in the project and the company. And more so than not, you guys know, we're not hiding, right? We have an interest in protecting you and your money more than ourselves, right? And it does sound like a sell, but it truly is in the benefit of you as a zone holder, because you don't have to stomach the wild fluctuations of somebody else's sells. Okay, and it's a lot more fun when we're all playing together instead of against each other, right? Because if with a high token price, the business does better, and if the business does better, then guess what? We can roll out more marketing. We can roll out, different projects inside of XETA, like the accelerators and the services and all this stuff faster with more people, right? And at the end of the day, we want to protect the company, and that helps protect you. Sort of like this. Here's an analogy. You're on an airplane. You know when the oxygen masks drop? Who gets it first? Who's the first one to put their oxygen mask on? Mom does, because if mom is dead, then mom can't help baby. Okay, so we have to take care of the business and the top, however you want to look at it. I always look at business sort of as a upside down pyramid, in that I want to lift other people up, not pretend to be like on the top, right? So how does the business get there? We want to protect the price because that protects you guys, right? So it's sort of like the prisoner's dilemma. In the past, you can go and Google that. I won't get into it, but we want to work together as a team. And when we work together as a team, everybody wins. All right. So this is not to manipulate anyone. This is not to change what you do. This is for me to be open and upfront and just give you a different way of looking at things. This is just a different mindset. It's a different position. It's a different perspective, especially now that we're closer to the financial services. So let's get into the video. Let's go through all the different examples I want to show you, and we'll go from there. Okay, guys, so we're in the XETA data dashboard. Here's some examples that I want to show you. Let's say you are sitting on some tokens. So we're going to talk about the selling part of this first. Then we're going to get into the compounding versus not selling. There's 3 different ways I want you to consider looking at this. So let's say you're sitting on 100 tokens. This as an example, okay? You're sitting on 100 tokens and you come in here and you're like, you know what? I want to take some profit. I'm going to sell 100 of my XETA tokens. Now you'll notice something is a little strange here. If I type in 100 tokens I'm going to sell. You notice how this is hard to see because it's in gray. I apologize, but you'll notice how this, and let me see if I can zoom in just a little bit here. You notice how this says 110.08. But wait a minute. This token price right here says 111.47. Why? Why is there a difference? If I type in 100 tokens that I'm going to sell, there's a 1.25% price impact. What that means is if you drop all these tokens at once, you're actually harming yourself. The reason is because what's going to happen is when this is sold, your 100 tokens will be sold at the price of 110. So what happens is it drops the price, then sells it, not the other way around. A lot of people think it's the other way around. It's not the other way around. It's not the other way around. So that's why you see what you're going to make is $11,008, not $11,100. Okay, so you're actually losing money when you drop a bunch of tokens all at one time. And this is just a basic sort of how DEXs and exchanges work, generally speaking. So you have a 1.25% price impact. So let's say you want to sell, how do you do this in a way that benefits the project, that benefits you, so you're not losing money? What does that look like? Well, first of all, if we go and look at the price right now, ideally what you would want to do is sell into a buy order, right? So for example, you see how this person here, I apologize, it's a little small on your screen. It's hard to zoom into a DEX screen or to show you this. You're just going to have to squint a little bit. But there's a purchase here for 12 tokens. Then you'll notice right up here, there's a sell for 12 tokens, right? That's the way to do it, is to wait for a buy order, match it with a sell order. Because what that does is it has a net neutral sort of impact, or a very minimal impact. Okay? If you're selling, ideally, you want to try to keep, you notice if I go down to 10 tokens, now it's 0.13% price impact. Right? So now you're selling this, let's zoom back in again. Now you're selling this at $111 as opposed to $110. You're impacting yourself less. So when you sell, you're actually making more money, right? Because you're not dropping 100. I've even seen I think I saw one time 115 tokens dropped. In a situation like this, even though we're at 111.47, you'd be selling this at 109.87. Almost 1.5% you're losing just by dropping that many all at one time. Ideally, what you'd want to be looking for is about 0.2 to 0.21, somewhere in that range. So if I said 17 tokens, okay, that's a pretty minimal price impact. Ideally, you want to match a buy order, but secondarily, you want to try to keep this at a minimum price impact. It just benefits everybody. Okay? And those are just some basic examples. And by the way, this works for buy orders as well. So this isn't a manipulation or an attempt at manipulation for selling. Check this out. So if we do the same thing here, if we said, I'm going to buy 100 tokens, the price impact goes the other way as well. You'll notice that $11,359 for 100 tokens. So there's a 1.27% price impact for buying. So what that means is it will raise the price, then buy. It's not like you buy at the current price, then it shoots it up, unless you buy in small quantities and there's a buy and sell process taking place. If you just drop 11 grand in, it will raise the price, then the buy comes in, okay? And it just that process I just explained does sort of depend on how many buyers and sellers are in there at the same time. But generally speaking, the price impact changes the price before your order comes in. So you're losing money if you drop tons of coins in at a time, or if you buy tons of coins in at the same time. So it benefits you to try and match orders. So if you're going to buy, it goes the same way. So if you saw somebody buying 20.28 tokens, that's a great, if you saw somebody selling 20.28 tokens, it's a great time to match it with a buy of 20.28. Okay? It keeps everything neutral. Now, ideally, the price is better if it goes up. The business makes more money. The liquidity is stronger. The treasury grows, which means the investments grow, which means the business grows, which means that helps you guys. So ideally, higher price is better. Okay, but buying and matching goes both ways, is what I'm trying to say, right? Super high price, super low price, both can be unhealthy. And I have no problem admitting that as a founder of XETA. I have no problem admitting that. So, there's nothing to hide. So, That's an example of when you're selling. This is a way to be strategic. Some people were called it responsible selling. I think that's a bad word. I think responsibility is sort of can be dependent on certain things, but strategically, we want you guys to do well, and we know you guys can do well when the business does well. And the token price is not the only thing that determines whether the business does well, but it's a part of it. And it's just one of those, like I say, taboo topics that no one wants to talk about. So that is strategically how to sell and how to buy. Now, guys, the main utility behind XETA is that you can do something with your token. And I keep hammering that home because it's key. It is key that you can take your tokens and put them into something without selling them. That's magnitudes higher than other projects' utility. I'll use air quote utility. Because this hasn't really been seen before, there's some projects that do it, okay, but not at this magnitude. I don't want to say re-education, but just a different way of looking at this. Because we have some utility that other projects don't have, I want to help, allow you folks to see it differently. Just have a different perspective, not to force you to do something, but to say, hey, here's a different way of looking at it. Here's a three-dimensional way of looking at buying and selling versus compounding versus all this stuff, as opposed to you either buy or you sell. That's it. Or you compound. Let's look at this for a minute. So the financial services, which, by the way, from the moment of this video, we were looking at 30 days for the first service to come out. Okay? Keep that in mind. Okay. Let's talk about the blue chip service for a minute, because we're going to start with the lowest one. Lowest, that doesn't make it bad. It's just the lowest one, right? It's the first one. 15%, these are conservative numbers. I want you to keep in mind. Conservative numbers. And keep in mind, I will pound the table and keep saying this. Past performance does not equal future performance. It doesn't indicate future profits. There's forecasting and there's past performance, and we as humans make almost all of our decisions based on past performance. So I just want to ensure everybody, I am not sitting here guaranteeing these returns that you're seeing on your screen. I'm just saying these are the forecasts based on past performances. Could be more, could be less, could be right where it says these numbers are. But let's just take this 15% after my disclaimer there. I want to just run some numbers because I think numbers are powerful and numbers don't lie. Okay, there's no emotion in numbers. 1 + 1 = 2, no matter if you're upset, no matter if you're happy, no matter if you're fearful, no matter if you're FOMOing. 1 + 1 always equals 2. So let's look at some numbers. 15% estimated forecast for the blue chip service, okay? Now keep in mind, conservative numbers, okay? Let's say you have 25 zones. Okay, I'm going to pull up my calculator. I'm going to move it above my head here a little bit. Shrink my head here. So let's say you have 25 zones. Okay, this is the lowest tier at the moment for now. You get 25 zones and you're earning 0.1 per day. You're earning 2.5 tokens, 2.5 XETA tokens per day. Or in a month, you're earning 75 tokens. This is what you make on your 25 zones in 1 month, 75 tokens. Let's look at this from a wealth perspective. Wealth is not attained overnight. Okay? Wealth takes time. Anybody who's wealthy will tell you it took time. Okay, so we just need to be a little patient. And I understand as people in position, they got to get out of their job. I was there. I commiserate. Trust me when I tell you, patience. If you chase wealth, you will be far more stable than if you chase a quick dollar or a FOMO reaction. So let's look at 6 months' time. So in 6 months' time, you have 450 tokens from your 25 zones. If you just saved, you can claim off and on, whatever. I'm not going to count fees for the moment, but let's say you have 450 tokens and it's worth $100. Now, the likelihood of it being $100 right at that time is unlikely. I'm just saying, I'm using very conservative numbers here. Okay, the 15% from the blue chip, the 100% token price. We're just using conservative numbers, so you know this is conservative, okay? At $100 token price, you got $45,000. Now you may be saying, but I got to get my ROI out. Yes, but I want you to look at this or consider looking at this in a different way. You can sell after 6 months. And at $100, if you sold right at $100, you'd have $45,000. Congratulations. Another way of looking at this, you can claim your 450 tokens and move them into the blue chip service without selling. And if we were going to go off 15%, be making about $67.50 per year. Or if we were to break it out into a monthly time frame, about $500 a month. You may say, that's not that exciting. But I submit to you that if you are the type of person that can't stomach ups and downs in crypto, you've been in this game long enough, you see it go straight up and come back down, and you're just basically chasing the next crypto project after the other, and you can't really find anything stable, the likelihood of you getting to the position where you can like quit your job, maybe quit your spouse's job, support your family, you're having to always do something, which is chase the next thing. So when I say $500 a month, that doesn't sound that exciting, but keep in mind, when you deposit your $45,000 into that blue chip service as XETA token, you are not selling it, number one. Number two, that value is locked in. If you put it in at $100, you are putting in $45,000. If the price goes up or if it comes down, you have $45,000, that service that's trading. Crypto could crash. Yes, the markets can crash too, but crypto could crash for some weird black swan. Maybe they announced regulations, or maybe the president announces another crypto tax and the market tanks. Doesn't matter to you because you got the $45,000 in the service that's trading. Okay, you're building wealth is what's happening. $500 doesn't sound like much. I would submit to you that if you tried to start like an online business and make $500 a month, people would kill to make $500 a month after just 6 months of work. A lot of people would. Okay, so wealth is building a foundation. In other words, it's sort of like saying, would you rather have $5 right now or $100 in several months from now? Not an exact example of returns. I'm just using that as an example. And I would submit that you probably plan on being around longer than one day. Okay, what you don't want to be is down the road 4 or 5 years. You're thinking, man, if 4 or 5 years ago I had compounded that, I would have 100 times more. Maybe I got into private equity. That thing went up 500 times as an example. If I'd have just put $1,000 into that, it could have been life-changing. So there is power in compound interest. And $500 does not look like much. It doesn't sound like much. Okay? But compound interest is super, super powerful. For example, you could compound that, and in a year it could be more. These are just examples. For one thing I will point out is the quote that many of you probably have heard from Einstein on compound interest. It's the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. Meaning that there's, I think the math, and I forget this, that if you double the penny every single day for just 1 month, it's $1 million. I think that's the math. I didn't look it up exactly, but the point is initially at the beginning of the race, a penny, it's like a penny a day, doubling it. What's that going to be worth? And then you realize compound is super, super, super powerful. And that's why I say, sure, you could have 45K in 6 months, or you could create cash flow. You can create a stream of income. Let's go to the private equity example for a minute. So you're at 25 zones, and maybe you move that 45K in, and you're like, you know what? That's a stream of income. I'm going to let it compound. I'm going to let it do its thing. Let's get to 50. Let's get to some private equity. It only takes 100 days. I know only 100. It's a little over 3 months, right? To go from 25 to 50. If you compound and don't buy in, another strategy is, you could use your returns from the first service as profit to go buy the token and buy more zones. That's just another example. But, 100 days later, you're at 50 zones. Okay? So you're in this about 9 months at that point, just as an example. And you're like, you know what? I'm now going to move some money into these private equity opportunities. Maybe you get into Stripe. Just as an example, I'm not saying you're going to get into Stripe, but maybe you're going to get into Stripe as a private equity opportunity. Maybe that thing does 100x, 10x, 5x, 50x, whatever, when it's publicly released on the market, and that little amount of money made a massive return, right? Okay, so again, these are different ways of looking at things. Let's look at the high frequency trading for a minute. I know that's the sexy one and everyone wants to talk about, and rightfully so. These are conservative numbers, so we look at this here, 250 to 500% yearly. Okay, that's a conservative number. We're going to go off 250% a year. Tell you what, I'll go lower than that. I'll do 25% a month. How about we run it on 25% a month? You got 75 zones. You're earning 7.5 tokens a day. Or 225 tokens in 1 month. If you took this same example, now you probably aren't going to wait 6 months because you have more zones, you're earning more tokens. We'll use the example of 3 months. Let's say you hold your 225 tokens and in 3 months you have 675. At a price of $100 on the market, you have $67,500. We'll just say 67. You got 67 grand. Congratulations, you've made 67 grand. You can cash that out, you can sell it. Or you could consider moving it into the high frequency trading service to earn more, making your profit work for you. Otherwise, if you think about it, and I've sold things, like I've flipped things, I've flipped coins. I don't do it that often. I'm more of a hodler, but the only thing is you have to keep doing that, right? It doesn't create a stream of revenue, a stream of income, revenue stream. Most wealthy people will tell you have to have multiple streams of income. If you were to move this into the high frequency trading, just as an example, and the example of 25% a month, which is below the conservative number, okay, that's practically 16K a month in that example, or 200K a year. These are different ways of looking at it. This is almost sort of like saying, I could buy a house for 500,000 and flip it for 600, profit the 100,000. Then you got to pay taxes. You had to pay for rehab. So you got a little less than $100,000, but you made $100,000. The only problem is you got to go out and do that again. You got to go out and do it again. You got to go out and do it again and again. Cash flow is king. And there's a great quote by Robert Kiyosaki. Making more money will not solve your problems if cash flow management is your problem, right? So you could get that same house for $500,000. Maybe you rent it for $1,500 or $2,000 a month. Okay, and you pocket $1,000 to $1,500, let's just say. You now have created cash flow. Cash flow is king, especially in this society. So these are ways of looking at it, because the only way to participate in the financial services is with your XETA token. That's the true utility. That's the true economy that we built in XETA Capital. So this is another way of looking at the buying and the selling process, what to do with your tokens, how to use your tokens. No, it's not only because the price is down. It's because this sort of utility really has not been seen, and I feel like there's just a little bit of a different way of looking at this, okay? Because there's not really been a project in this space that has had utility like this to have these decisions. The only reason these decisions exist for you to strategically plan how to do this is because there's so much utility, and it is because there's so much to do with the token. So again, you know, I'm not here to tell you not to sell. I'm telling you I'd prefer if you didn't, and I'm just showing you a different avenue. I'm showing you, hey, there's something else you could do to multiply your profits, potentially. Or you could just take the profit today. Okay? Neither is wrong. Neither is bad. It's your decision. But I feel like if I didn't share how the utility with the services is going to work, I'd be doing a disservice. That you might have to come back and buy the token anyway. You might have to buy it at a higher price. If you had 100 tokens and the price on the market was $100, you have $10,000 that you can invest into the financial services if you have them unlocked and they're ready. If the token price is $150, you now have 15,000 with the exact same number of tokens because the price is higher. So the price being higher doesn't just positively impact the business, it positively impacts you when you're going to use the utility behind XETA in the financial services. And we all do that by working together to help protect the price and so that everybody wins. Because I think we plan on being around longer than a day. I hope most of us plan on being around months and years down the road. And that's how you get compound interest to work for you, is over a period of time. And real true wealth is built using cash flow. You build cash flow by creating multiple streams of income. And we do that by planning ahead of time and planning it early and kind of taking a mindset of I'd rather have $100 in the future than $5 now, just as an example. So I hope this kind of clarifies, maybe educates, maybe helps us see things just in a different light, just taking a different position and taking a different perspective on the buying and selling process. Because XETA has a utility that other projects don't have, it's just one of those things that I think is important for us to keep in mind, that taking advantage of these services, which is the main draw to XETA, requires the token, and you guys are going to do far better if we have a higher price. And if we work together, we can all make that a success. So thank you for watching, and until next time, take care, and God bless.